It's been home to the NASCAR Cup Series for just about as long as NASCAR has existed, if not longer, I believe. And it's home to the annual Valley Star Credit Union 300, one of the biggest late model stock races in all of racing. And it's also home this season to round number 7 of the iRacing Cars Late Model Stock Tour as we head in for a brand new week just past halfway in this season for 2023 season number 2. We get to the end of April. It's down to crunch time. Drop weeks are coming soon, and Alex McCullum is in need of some big time points if he wants to get up ahead of Ryan Kuhn in the standings. Welcome to round number 7. Welcome to Pit Stop TV as we welcome you to the Martinsville Speedway. I don't have any paper clips, I don't have any hot dogs, but Gary, I am ready for 40 laps of racing.
And it's going to be absolutely fantastic and at the same time chaotic here at Martinsville. Like you mentioned, Andrew, it's a short track that's been around for pretty much as long as NASCAR has existed, especially with the...
I believe 1 year longer, actually.
Probably. I do remember the railroad off on the back straightaway, too. I think that's still there as well, which is absolutely fascinating. But it's a very short track, obviously, and, well, 4 corners, and it's relatively flat. Sometimes rain in the night, but we are here in the early morning in sim time.
That we are, and on track currently, you'll find Alex McCullum turning a couple of fast laps. He's already got provisional pole, but we have a couple of cars left to go. One of them, as paints are still loading, is points leader Ryan Kuhn. We'll check out Ryan's lap time here as qualifying comes to a close in a couple of short moments. Another minute and change left to go, and on board, this is a good look on board one of these late model stock cars. Diving off into turn 1, Ryan chucks it in. These are open setups, so he's got the car to lean on. Picks up the throttle early, a lot of grip in the rear end in these cars. He's going to chuck it back into turn 3, late on the brakes, right down on the curbing, and back up out of the corner, early to the throttle, right to the outside wall, and that is a lap. Is it good enough for pole for Ryan Kuhn? No. 3/100ths of a second shy of Alex McCullum's time. Ryan Kuhn will be starting from second spot. Let's quickly take a look at point standings coming into this evening. They're oh so important. You can see Ryan Kuhn ahead by 66, and 2 drivers from up north, a lot of racing experience. Ryan Kuhn more so in late models, Alex McCullum more so in legend cars. Interesting to see these two clash, especially with all the races Ryan is racking up on this account that he's using 4 points in this season. And Gary, you're privy, I'm sure, to how these drivers sometimes treat official racing. The race for points on one account, race for fun on another account. And you can see Ryan Kuhn running 87 races, if not more by this point, 74 wins. That is a huge, huge number.
Those are stacked, and yeah, I don't blame him for I don't blame people if they do that. One, just for fun, just so they don't have to worry about it in this case. Wow, Ryan is definitely having a lot of fun in this case, although I'm looking through the club listings, and I feel bad for Trayton. He's the only one from Canada here. Meanwhile, everyone else is from the essentially the east, northeast, or, well, yeah, actually pretty much just about the east coast of the U.S. So Trayton doing a fantastic job representing Canada here, being almost in the top 5 in points.
And of course, Trayton Lapsevich has plenty of short track experience as well in the excuse me, in the NASCAR Pinty Series up in Canada. We have had some Midwestern drivers, a West driver or two, kind of mix things up down on the bottom end of the top 10, but for the most part, it is New England, New Jersey, Carolina, and Virginia representing here in the iRacing Cars Late Model Stock Tour. Let's take a look at your starting grid this evening. On pole, Alex McCullum, as mentioned, in car number 1. Paint's still taking a moment to load. That should be happening any point in time now. But anyways, Alex McCullum on pole, Ryan Kuhn starting from second. Justin Haslett will start from third. Kendrick Cryer from fourth position. Starting fifth, it'll be Kyle Turzak. Caleb Hall from sixth. Seventh and eighth, it's Justin Crowe, Devin Landry. Ninth and 10th, Josh Cottle and John Owlett. Starting 11th, it's Matthew Boniface. Chad Miller from 12th. Blake Thronberg will start from 13th. Spencer Dickinson from 14th position. As there you see, paint's finally loading in. Weather conditions, well, Gary, you and I talked about it briefly before we went live. We are in the early morning, about 6 a.m. in sim. You can see the lights still on as the sun rises outside of turns 3 and 4. An odd setting and very cold racetrack.
Yeah, this is something I've never really seen in iRacing for short tracks and ovals, essentially. I've seen it sometimes during week 13 for something like the Mazda series, but other than that, I never really see morning time. So this is, for me, a very unique situation here.
The field works up out of turn number 2, ready to go racing. 40 laps the distance. It's one of our shorter races of the season. A quick look at the schedule as we get ready to turn them loose You can see round number 7, Martinsville Speedway. Next week, we go to Hickory Motor Speedway in Newton, North Carolina. The Cars Tour was just there this past weekend. Get the schedule down out of the way. Alex McCullum ready to start this race, and we are green flag from Martinsville Speedway, 40 laps the distance. And 1 lap complete, just like that. Nice and quickly, click that one off. Ryan Kuhn right on the back end of Alex McCullum. We're getting close here for the top spot.
Needs to have already broken away from Justin Hazlett in that 3rd place position, but he is looking there if anything happens. But Ryan is just all over that back bumper, the number 1 of Alex McCullum.
A couple of cars dicing it up for the back. Dickinson, Owlett, and Miller, all those guys side by side and mixing it around. Ryan Kuhn, though, fastest that time by. On board in the driver's eye, getting real close to that number 1 car in the corners. This is a long race, though, and it sounds like we're getting some shifting. That might just be... No, that sounds like they're actually shifting. Wow.
Yeah, these downshifting.
That is bizarre. I never expected that.
You know what? It could most definitely help for rotation and getting that speed off of the corner. So whatever works, really.
Yeah, I mean, we now see it in the NASCAR Cup Series with the next-gen car, but that's a very different situation. I'm a little bit speechless. I'm a little bit shocked right now. I'm very much taken aback by this. By the way, first time welcoming Gary Weaver into the broadcast booth for the EPI late models on Monday nights. Gary, glad to have you, but I'm a little bit taken aback by this for sure. Shifting in a late model stock car, I wonder if that's just an audio glitch, if you will, because the RPMs are dropping so low that the sim expects the shift, but we are getting RPM data and shift and gear data that it's putting them in 3rd gear. That's just so bizarre to me. Never expected that in a late model stock car at Martinsville Speedway, but we're seeing it as Ryan Kuhn continues to just hound the back end of Alex McCullum. This is very, very close to the race lead.
I think I know why these Frontier downshifting. It is also to avoid getting just banging off the rev chip in 4th gear, which is what's happening to Justin Hazlett. So he sits in 3rd. That's actually very clever. I never would have thought taking that into account.
We'll check out the gear and RPM data here for Hazlett. A different setup group from our top 2 as Caleb Hall taps the fence out of turn 4, and yeah, 4th gear all the way into the corner. Got a little bit high there in the revs. Let's listen in this time down the backstretch for Justin Hazlett in car 27 on the chip. And, you know, this is one of our shorter races. Only 40 laps here. They'll click off quick as Ryan Kuhn starts to take a look there to the inside. I don't know. Usually in a longer race, you're going to burn the tires off, so you go with a gear that you hit the chip in by the end of the straightaway. But here, long straights, short race, I guess I get it. It makes sense.
I think Alex is also sitting, for what I'm hearing, he's also sitting just in 4th gear. So in a sense, he could probably be holding up Ryan, but Ryan's just been sitting behind this whole time. He hasn't really made a move just yet, but of course there's only, at the start-finish line, at least 29 laps to go.
Yeah, McCullum on the chip that time into the corner. And you know what? He's giving up a little bit of entry speed, but he's getting speed back off the corner, and that's 6 to 1, half dozen the other. Darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of thing. The car behind you is going to close in just a little bit on corner entry, but so long as you play your cards right and nail the corner right, you're going to drive back away ever so slightly on that exit. So it's very much give and take right now at Martinsville Speedway between these guys. Just very much surprising to me that we've got a car shifting and running second. That's really odd. But it's working. And maybe some contact there. Here we go.
Ever so slightly.
To the inside, Ryan Kuhn for the race lead on lap 13 of 40. And side by side up front, some of the best racing we've seen this early in a race all season long, and it's round 7. Kuhn deep to the inside there. McCullum's going to sit back, try to get a crossover attempt on exit, but it's just not going to happen. I don't know, he's almost there. Covered up. Not going to happen.
Probably for the best to not send it from about half a car length back, especially when he didn't even have a nose there. So respect all around, no doubt. So that means at this point now, Ryan is probably going to start pulling away. We'll see. Well, I can't say the last time by. We'll go with the last time by. I'm seeing a lot of time.
Oh, crashing into turn 4. A big pile up. Thronberg at the front of it. Boniface is involved. Didn't even really talk about Matthew Boniface yet. Glad to see him in the field, but man, a lot of carnage back towards the halfway point of this race at a turn 4, and it looks like it's going to start with a stack up between Landry and one other car. Devin Landry in car 40, and yeah, Caleb Hall down here in turns 3 and 4. Landry to the inside. I think Hall squeezed him, might not have known exactly how much room there was or wasn't, and boy, did they stack up.
Everyone just absolutely piled in there, and yeah, I feel like that's on Hall just for, I don't know, it's a very weird thing. About maybe mid-turn 3 right at the apex when the contact was made, as we'll see here on the external angle.
Landry was definitely there. Landry had position. And they all just pile in. Josh Cottle, nowhere to go. He gets turned around. Justin Crow, Blake Thronberg, a lot of damage for those cars. Really unfortunate. Let's get one more look at it. We'll take the onboard with the Elite Performance Industries number 22 of Blake Thronberg right behind all of it starting. And it was actually a few cars back. It'll be an interesting perspective down into the corner. Here's the onboard. Wow.
There's nowhere to go. And much like the Gen 4 car, the bumpers are a bit off the ground and the noses are low, so you just go right under them.
And I can't blame Blake, honestly. He throttled up mid-crash. You may as well at that point. It's no caution. You've just got to try and keep digging. And it's not a pleasant situation by any means, but he's got to try and get what he can get. And when they're already stacking up like that, what are you going to do but crash? Behind these guys, in the top 5, Kendrick Cryer, Kyle Terzak, battle for 4th. A couple of the cars we haven't really looked at yet. Just past halfway by a lap. Kyle Terzak on the back end here of Kendrick Cryer. And we've seen a bit of Terzak this season. We saw him last week at Southern National. We haven't seen much of Kendrick Cryer, and as you might expect, actually, Cryer allows the 51 car to go on by. So a pass there for Terzak, but maybe not done. Cryer to his back bumper there into turn 1, but we'll play nice.
I saw him change his mind about 3 different times down the straightaway there. It's wow. It's more of a do I, don't I, who knows, but here we go.
This is John Ellett, Blake Thronberg for the 10th position, a couple of damaged race cars. Thronberg definitely taking the brunt of that impact. You can see Josh Cottle just behind, but Ellett deep down to the inside in turns 3 and 4. And I will say, after finally having experienced the Valley Star Credit Union 300 for myself this past year in 2022, you see this by the end of the race, Gary, where there's a couple of cars that are just torn up, whether it's from heat races and they still advanced, or from a very long and grueling 300-lap race. You definitely get pretty torn up cars by the end of the show, and this is pretty accurate.
I don't know how anyone can do that in real life. It is absolutely fascinating. Well, I know how. It's just absolute grit and just, you know, it's fascinating short track racing, especially with seeing everyone's essentially the battle scars on the cars. As Oled has managed to get by for P10, but Thronberg thinks about it, decides against it for now.
Looks like they sort things out there. Up front, Kyle Terzak still on the back end. Actually, they've swapped now. Terzak now back behind Cryer for the 4th position. A solid battle here. And if you recall earlier, Cryer was all over the back end of Hazlitt in the opening laps, and that is quite clearly changed, as I'm not sure what happened to Cryer, but he's just kind of fallen off the pace.
I can see down the front straightaway there, Terzak keeps thinking about it. I like seeing it. I like seeing front-on angles like that, where you see the drivers, well, okay, I might as well go up as the 66 just brushes the wall, but so far so good. But I love the front-on shots and aerial shots where you see these drivers make the decisions in real time pretty much immediately. Just like, do I, don't I? Well, let's just not, and we'll wait. And Terzak is definitely getting closer, that is for sure. Better corner entry by the looks of it, definitely better on corner exit there. I think Cryer's burnt up his tires a little bit.
Both of these guys, I think, are just trying to hang on at this point. I know it's only a 40-lap race. We talk about the tire wear being significantly lower compared to some of the races we have this season. But but it's still there. It's certainly still a factor. And what might also be a factor here, look at the cars lined up ahead of Ryan Kuhn, your race leader. This could be a bit of a minefield for Ryan as this race goes on. At this point, I think if you're Ryan Kuhn, you might want to actually think about pacing yourself. You've got a little bit of a gap back to McCullum. Don't catch these guys. Don't be in a hurry to catch cars. As another pass here. Kendrick Cryer allowing Turzak to go on by. And it looks like Turzak will hold on to that spot. But Gary, this could get very interesting for our race leader.
It's going to be an absolute minefield for sure, like you mentioned. It's going to be a very incredibly daring. I feel like if I was Ryan, I'd just catch up to the back of the car and then just, if they move, then sure, go for it. But if not, then just sit behind them, like you mentioned. Don't be in a rush to pass the cars, because there's only about, 7 laps to go now at the start-finish line.
And there are some rather damaged cars right in front of the 72. It looks like they're going just fast enough that I think Ryan has just enough time to kind of play around here and keep going at his pace, and he's still opening up a gap, actually, to Alex McCullum ever so slightly. A few hundredths there, a few hundredths here. It's been an insane pace all season long from Ryan Kuhn, I gotta say. Of course, this coverage is brought to you by Elite Performance Industries, powered by the shop, and of course, McCullum is one of those guys over at the shop, so we love McCullum around here, but the dominance by Ryan Kuhn cannot be understated. The RKM, whatever he's got, whether it's driver or setup, I don't know. And it very well could be a driver-car pairing. He has just been so good this season. Gary, I know it's only your first race here, but I think you can see a bit of the evidence of what we're talking about. He has just been the car to beat week in, week out. Car 72, always the one up front.
I've come across Ryan here and there on the service in my almost 10 years on iRacing, so I'm definitely not new to seeing him run out front, running insanely well. And like you mentioned, it just can't be understated. He's done a fantastic job, and this pairing, as we saw by the stats at the start, it works insanely well. It's absolutely fascinating, and I wouldn't be surprised if he would have a potential ride in late model stocks in the future in real life, because it's surely possible at this rate.
Well, he's got his own car. He races up in the state of Maine and surrounding areas.
So he did.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, as this is the stacker right in front of him. It might be a little bit too late for Alex McCullum. One car gives way. That's Chad Miller up out of the way. Hopefully out of the way of McCullum as well, and yes, he will be. But Justin Crow and Blake Thronberg, right in front of McCullum, or right in front of Kuhn. I'm all over these names. Right in front of Kuhn with a lap and a half to go at the paperclip. It looks like Ryan's going to be okay. These guys will be just far enough ahead until just the last moment. 1 lap to go. White flag is out, presented by Whiplash Simcams. 1/2 mile left for the 72 car. Ryan Kuhn just kind of tottering up to the 22 car. We'll look to the inside here of Thronberg. Thronberg gives way, and it is another W for the 72 car this season in 2023 Season 2. Once again, Ryan Kuhn to victory lane.
Well, an absolutely fantastic job by Ryan. Straight up dominance throughout the entire race once he managed to get by McCullum. And that whatever he's got on that car, like you mentioned, Andrew, it is working insanely well.
Call that 75 wins now. And that is a stat I never thought we'd say. 75 wins, and we are only beginning week 7.
Wow.
See if he burns it down here at Martinsville. I
think he's trying. It is very narrow here.
Well, it is also difficult. These rear tires have a ton of grip. I don't know what it is about this car, but they have a ton of grip. I think I was just trying to pose for the picture there. But props nonetheless to Ryan Kuhn. Certainly would be deserving of the burnout, but he's taken these wins in modest this season, and I can't blame him there. Kind of the Mark Martin strategy. But Car 72 has certainly earned that. Let's take a look at our unofficial race results here in just one moment as far as who finishes where. And, of course, Ryan Kuhn up top, Alex McCullum second place by nearly 1.6 seconds. Justin Hazlitt there in third, Kyle Turzak fourth. Kendrick Cryer chips into the top 5, hung on just behind the 51 of Turzak. Devin Landry, after everything that happened with that contact with Caleb Hall, look at them. They both finished 6th and 7th. They were on the front end of that. It was everybody else that had to deal with the mess afterwards. Dickinson 8th, Boniface 9th, and Cottle 10th.
And the rest of the field being 11th through 14th is John Ouellette, who we saw battling his way through. Unfortunately, couldn't get the top 10, but still managed to finish in the end. Justin Crowe finishing 12th, Blake Thronberg finishing 13th, and Chad Miller 14th, both 1 and 2 laps down, respectively, for Thronberg and Miller, rounding out the 14-car field here.
Now, I'm not sure if we'll get to talk to McCullum or not. Tyler, if you're out there listening, see if you can send him our way. We'd certainly love to talk to him, as always. Anybody else out there watching? Ryan Kuhn, Justin Hazlitt, Kyle Turzak, Kendrick Cryer. Anybody, if you need an invite, hit us up on the YouTube chat quickly. We can get you in here before the end of the broadcast, hopefully. I know McCullum's got the server. I really enjoy talking to these guys about these races. We don't get to talk to very many of them all that often, but it's good to get their input, especially on this season format, because you get 4 drop weeks, and it's different, I think. Well, certainly different from how you would play a league. It's not a matter of you only get 1 shot each week, 1 round, and you just have to make the most of it. You do get multiple chances to better your average points, but of course you have 1 bad race, unless you run a bunch to take that out of what would be counted for your average. That 1 bad race is certainly going to count against you, even though you can lift it a little bit with a couple of other races. So it really depends on how much time you have as well. You can see McCullum, 6 weeks in, now we'll call it 7, has 12 races, 7 wins. You know, he can try and run the next one and get a win there. It's a balance for sure.
It's a very, at least to me, kind of just coming in this from pretty much out of left field. It's a very tedious balance by the looks of it. It is, it's definitely, at least for me, I'd say it's pretty nerve-wracking. But again, actually one thing I missed as well, McCullum with, well, now 12 races we'll go with, but coming into this 11 races, being second in the points compared to Ryan Kuhn, that is impressive. Yeah. And I somehow glossed over that entirely when we first opened this, but that's still impressive. That can't be understated for Alex whatsoever.
To say they now combine for exactly 100 starts, but to tell you that Ryan Kuhn's got 88 of them and McCullum has got 12, that is a really crazy stat. And for the wins, it's even crazier. You've got 75 and 7. Between the two of them. So what is that? 82 total wins? That is insane. Between them, they win 82% of the time. But most of that, Ryan Kuhn this season. McCullum did miss a week, admittedly, when he was out for Spring Nationals for the U.S. Legend Cars and NX Series in Nashville and Highland Rim. So that was a drop week. That was Langley here for us, but still, the numbers are staggering for Ryan Kuhn, and you know we can take a look at the schedule as well as far as how things are breaking down at this point. I've now run round 7, at least for our perspective. We'll still have races throughout the week. These guys can run for points, but next up for us, anyways, in the broadcast, it's Hickory Motor Speedway, and we're getting into a couple of bull ring tracks as well. Hickory and Lanier are both short, both rough and tumble. New Smyrna is a little bit faster, but really odd and just very much contact heavy sometimes. Then Nashville and Lakeland both feel like super speedways almost. Very big tracks, very fast race tracks as well.
And seeing Lakeland on the schedule is just brings back memories. I love it. It was fascinating. Like you mentioned, yeah, both similar tracks for Nashville and Lakeland. So that's going to be very, very interesting. I wonder if some drivers are going to go for aero or corner or somehow try and find the glorious mix of getting both in at the same time.
Well, I'm sure we'll certainly find out as the season goes on, but let's take a look at our upcoming broadcast here at Pit Stop TV. Up next, Wednesday evening, 2 nights from now. In fact, just about exactly 48 hours from now, it's you and I again, Gary, as we go to North Wilkesboro Speedway for the UFL Elite Series on April 26th. Race 2 of round 1 of the playoffs. We only have a 2-round playoff system this season, though, and of course EPI, the pole providing, I guess, pole sponsor, if you will, for that series. We've had a lot of crazy pole winners for that series as well. As we get down to the final 3 races, 2 more chances to punch tickets into the Championship 4 at Charlotte, and of course the throwback in North Wilkesboro Speedway. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I am excited because this North Wilkesboro, it's going to be, instead of 20 cars, it's going to be 40 or so on that tiny little track, and I can't wait for both the chaos and just seeing how the next gens handle the North Wilkesboro Speedway on iRacing before seeing that in real life in May for the All-Star race.
And we've seen it a couple of times before on Pit Stop TV, but I think it's going to be something entirely different with this specific field of drivers. 40 cars is a lot. And I wouldn't be opposed, honestly, to a kind of heat race system, but that's not going to be the case. We can't change it now, right? We're this far into the season. 40 cars is going to be a big, big field for Wednesday evening. You've got to make sure you tune in. But then, hey, Thursday, we're doing something a little bit old, but a little bit new as well, where, Gary, you're going from the broadcast booth on Wednesday to the driver's seat in the amateur race for the North American Racing League Porsche Cup Series for Thursday. That's pretty cool.
I'm terrified. I've been trying to put in so many practice laps, and it is Belle Isle is absolutely brutal with its bumps. I feel like it definitely takes a lot of skill, at least for me. I'm still trying to develop that, where the car sometimes doesn't turn in, and it's a very difficult, at least for me, a mix of both corner speed as well as braking and trying to not lock up the tires every 5 seconds. But it's going to be very, very fun to run in that series.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult race car to get a handle on, especially at a street course like Detroit Belle Isle, but that'll be a lot of fun as we get that season going. Season number 3 for the Porsche Cup cars. We ran season 4 for the GT3 cars over the fall and winter. Then on Sunday, we continue on with the Sim Pit Radical Series on to Okayama International Circuit in Japan. 2 consecutive weeks of racing in Japan, by the way, for those Radical SR8s. They're staying over on that part of the world for 2 really fun races, Okayama, then Suzuka, and of course everything else in between. We go to Hickory on Monday, May 1st, I guess. That's crazy. May 1st for the Hickory Motor Speedway race for these guys with these late model stock cars, and I can't wait to see how these points change. And that'll be week 8 as well. So that'll be the final week that has to count before we start figuring in drop weeks. And I guess we'll get a real picture of these specific late model stock car standings after round 9 at Lanier. So when we go to New Smyrna, that's when we'll properly get ourselves a good championship picture, because even coming into this race, Ryan Kuhn, Alex McCullum split up a little bit with that off week for McCullum, so we'll see how things change. But it's been a lot of fun here. Of course, you can follow along with everything Pit Stop TV on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch, the whole lot of them there at the bottom of the screen. But Gary, how was that for your first late model stock race of the season?
I know we talked about this before, actually probably just at the top of the broadcast, probably just before. My mind somehow blends that, but that was fast. Yeah. It's more of a, now that I say that out loud, it's kind of a, well, yeah, no duh, but that went a lot faster than I expected, and 40 laps, that just ticked by almost immediately.
And we've had the debate a couple of times, the conversation anyways, and I'll be very open about it. I wish this series was a C-Class series with cautions. You can take the fast repair out, because that's what you do usually for C-Class races anyways, but tack on an extra 20 laps or so, make this a 60-lap race at Martinsville. You can do whatever to the other tracks, whether it's 20 or 25 or 15, whatever you want to do. But tack on an extra 20 here from Martinsville, add cautions. I think it'd be a better race. You would have a little more tire strategy. Of course, there's no tires being added, but you at least have to manage them a little better over the course of 60 laps. You would get a stoppage for that crash we saw at turn 4, including this car on the screen, Matthew Boniface. So that would have packed things back up and changed. That would have given, I think, McCullum an extra chance at Ryan Kuhn.
I definitely would. I do hope that for the next season in iRacing, which is coming in June, I believe, if not the end of, and I'm pretty sure it's not the first, if not second week of June.
Yep.
Hopefully they do take that into account, because it would be absolutely fantastic. Because how it's set now is there's also a fixed setup alternative as well. It's also a D-Class series. I feel like you move, just take the Open Step series, move it up to C-Class like you said, and just do everything like you said. And then I think we have a pretty viable C-Class series for the late models, or for late model stocks in this case. Yeah,
it's weird because I think the super late models are the C-Class late model variant, and
yep,
iRacing kind of sees supers as being higher than late model stock cars. Maybe 5 years ago, I would agree, but that has definitely changed. Even guys who go up to NASCAR, Josh Berry, for example, came from the cars, Solid Rock Carriers cars tour, and I think that's important to take note of. Hopefully, this car is actually moved up to be level, at least in iRacing's kind of scaling there, level with the super late model. If anything, I feel like super late model racing is declining. It's more expensive, it's harder to do. Late model stocks, it's more of a spec platform. It provides better racing, smaller brakes, heavier car, straight rail chassis. It is just a lot more fun, in my opinion, and I think does show we have really solid stuff, and we're seeing a lot of NASCAR stars come from late model stock racing. Even Ty Gibbs used to run the Solid Rock Carriers Cars Tour, for example. Anthony Alfredo used to come from the Cars Tour. A lot of these guys now are coming from late model stock racing as opposed to super late model racing. Hopefully something is taken note of in that regard, and hopefully this car is at least on even footing, if not above the super late model for the future, but we'll see. That said, Gary, thanks for being here. I know usually we have Zach Murtis in this chair. Unfortunately, he had an obligation come up, so hopefully everything is all good there. Hopefully we get him back for next week when we go to Hickory Motor Speedway. I know it's kind of a home round right now for each of us, living pretty close. For me, 20 minutes down the road, for him a couple of hours. But anyways, that should be a lot of fun next week. The virtual Newton, North Carolina. That'll be certainly enjoyable from the birthplace of NASCAR stars. But this has been it from the Paperclip Martinsville Speedway. We will see you next time, hopefully Wednesday evening, for the UFL Elite Series from North Wilkesboro Speedway. For myself, Andrew Cardinale, and Gary Weaver in the booth, thank you so much for watching, and for all of our partners, and, well, those who make it happen for us, I should say, at Pit Stop TV in audio, ATV, Whiplash Media, SimCams, OBS, and iRacing.com. We will see you all next time, and a big shout-out, of course, as always, to Tyler Payne and Elite Performance Industries, powered by The Shop. We'll see you at North Wilkesboro.